Hi, this is our video presentation for BKAF1023 Intro to Financial Accounting. We have four members which are Nur Alia binti Aziz, me Ajit Kumar Anaki Ravindra, Nur Akila Shahida binti Abdul Halim, and Juziana Putri binti Jamat. The companies we have chosen are Aeon Berhad as well as Volcano Berhad. Aeon Berhad is a part of the Aeon Group of Enterprises in Malaysia, and it currently owns and operates a department store, supermarket, and a pharmacy chain that sells a wide range of products including daily necessities, household items, apparel, pharmaceuticals, black price stores, and other items. On the other hand, Volcano Berhad is a Malaysian investment holding company, and its business primarily focuses on the production of nameplates and plastic injection molded parts for electronical and electronics and the automotive industry.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Juziana Putri binti Jamat, matric card 289916. So today I'm going to talk about liquidity ratio between two companies, which is Volcano Berhad and Aeon Co.M Berhad. So firstly, I'm going to talk about Aeon Company. So Aeon Company code Berhad currently have a current ratio of 0.05, indicate that Aeon Co. Berhad current assets are not enough to cover their short-term liability. Aeon Co. should strive to bring up their current ratio to at least 1.0 and above to handle or cover the debt without much trouble. Also, Aeon Company has a quick ratio of 0.173, indicating that they will be able to immediately cover less than 20% of their current ability, which put them in a bad situation financially. Should to need a cover that immediately would arise, an increase of their quick ratio to minimum of 0.5 will put them in a stronger position to cover all their debt for that. Next, I'm going to talk about liquidity ratio for Volcano Berhad company. So this company show that current ratio is 0.23 and Volcano Berhad is a vet current ratio which is only 0.203. The company is unstable situation and have a low current ratio which is less than 1 times. So we can conclude that Volcano Berhad they don't have ability to cover their debt for this year. Based on the table given, it represents that the quick ratio of Volcano Berhad company, which is only 4.707, and Volcano Berhad company is a stable situation and have a good quick ratio which is more than 1 times, means they have a short-term asset than a current liabilities. So we can conclude that Volcano Berhad have the ability to cover their debt on this year.
Hi, my name is Ajit Kumar and my matrix number is 289776. I'll be presenting the activity ratios. As you can see, Aeon Company's inventory turnover ratio is 3.6298. This indicates that Aeon Company takes about 101 days to sell and restock their inventory. Next, we have total asset turnover. Aeon Company's total asset turnover is 0.6192, which indicates that Aeon is underperforming in this sector. Usually, companies in Aeon Company's sector should be aiming for a total asset turnover of 1.0 and above. And finally, we have the account receivable turnover, which Aeon has a ratio of 27.7356. This indicates that Aeon Company's account receivables are turning over 27 times per year. This shows that Aeon Company's customers are able to pay off the debts quickly, as well as Aeon Company has a highly efficient debt collection rate. Moving on to activity ratios for Volcano Berhad. Starting off, we have the inventory turnover ratio, and Volcano Berhad's inventory turnover ratio is 2.099. This indicates that the company is selling their goods fast and they have a less excess inventory. Next, we have total asset turnover, and Volcano Berhad's total asset turnover is 0.839. Similar to Aeon Company, their total asset turnover is low and they should work to improve their total asset turnover. And finally, we have the account receivable turnover, of which Volcano Berhad has an account receivable turnover of 4.154, which indicates that they are turning over their accounts about 4 times a year. And it also shows that Volcano Berhad has a low account receivable ratio due to inefficient collection of debt and extending credit to the customers who are unable to pay off their debts.
Hi, my name is Nur Alia binti Aziz and my matric number is 289756. Beyond profitability ratios. Aeon's net profit margin is 0.0256, which translates to 0.025 cents for every dollar earned. The return on asset ratio is included in the category of financial ratio devoted to asset management. As can be seen, Aeon's ROA is 0.015. A debt-to-asset ratio is a kind of leverage ratio that shows the proportion of a company's financial commitments, include short-term and long-term, to total assets. Aeon's debt-to-asset ratio is 0.0, indicating that the company is more secure. The debt-to-equity ratios reflect a company's total obligation toward its stockholders' equity and measure its leverage. The Aeon company's debt-equity ratios was 1.29.
My name is Nur Akila Shahida binti Abdul Halim, and my metric number 28791. I will explain about profitability ratio in Volcano Berhad. Volcano Berhad profit margin on sale ratio is 0.0465. The profit margin ratio indicates the proportion of the sale that comprise net income. In other words, it determines the profit margin at a certain level of sale. For instance, Volcano's net profit margin is 0.0465, which translates to 0.046 cents for every dollar earned. Moreover, the return on asset ROA for this company is 0.0390. Volcano should strive to improve their ROA to gain further trust for their investor. The debt-to-asset ratio and the debt-to-equity ratio make up the leverage ratio. The ratio of Volcano Berhad debt-to-asset is 0.085. A ratio of 1 shows that the company's obligation and assets are equal. This indicates the company has a significant level of debt. It is greater than 1 implies that a company's liabilities surpass its assets. Volcano Berhad debt-to-asset ratio is 0.7, indicate that company is only secure but could stand to improve their ratio. A low debt-to-equity ratio shows that lender provide less debt financing than shareholder do stock financing. A greater ratio shows that the company borrows more money to finance its operations, exposing it to possible risk if a debt level is excessive. It is 0.2285 for Volcano Berhad. The debt-to-equity ratio is the percentage of the firm debt it is shareholder equity. Companies among a debt-to-equity ratio below 1.0 are often less dangerous than those with a ratio greater than 1.0. Consequently, Volcano Berhad has a good debt-to-equity ratio.
So now I'm going to talk about comparison of liquidity ratio between Aeon Co company and Volcano Berhad. So from the table that we produce is the current ratio for these two companies are vastly different. Aeon Co Berhad achieved a higher current ratio, which is 0.505 times, and Volcano Berhad only 0.203 times. The difference in total amount for both company in the same year 2021 has a gap which is 0.202 times. Even both companies have a good current ratio, but a higher current ratio is obviously better for the business. And it clearly shows that Aeon Co Berhad has more stable financial because of the company has a more asset than Volcano Berhad has a less liability than. For the quick ratio, based on the table, the quick ratio for these two companies are also vastly different. Volcano Berhad achieved a higher quick ratio with 4.7.0 times, while Aeon Co only have 0.174 times. The difference in total amount for both companies in the same year has a big gap, which is 4.533 times. And even both companies have a good ratio, but a higher quick ratio is obviously better for the business. This is also implies for what company can repay the existing debt without selling a long-term asset. And for it clearly showed that Volcano Berhad has more stable finance because the company has more asset than Ion Co Berhad had, and they also have a lower liabilities than them. Although both company have a ratio more than 1, but Volcano Berhad company with a larger quick ratio than Ion has more quick asset than current liabilities.
Next, I'll be comparing the activity ratios of both Aeon Company and Volcano Berhad. Starting off, we have their inventory turnover ratio. In terms of selling their inventory, both companies have good ratios. However, Aeon Company has a stronger inventory turnover rate, being able to sell and restock their inventory in about 101 days, compared to Volcano Berhad, which will take 173 days to sell and restock their inventory. This indicates that Aeon Company has a more proficient method of selling their goods quickly and efficiently compared to Volcano Berhad. Moving on, I'll be comparing the total asset turnover. In terms of generating revenue from their assets, Volcano Berhad has the edge over Aeon Company in this sector. Volcano Berhad is generating RM 0.839 cents in revenue for every RM1 of their assets sold, while Aeon Company is generating RM 0.619 cents for every RM1 of assets sold, which is lower compared to Volcano Berhad. However, both companies are underperforming and not efficiently using the assets to generate sales. When compared to the broader market, both companies are thoroughly underperforming. And finally, I'll be comparing the account receivable turnover. When it comes to account receivable turnover, Aeon Berhad is far ahead of Volcano Berhad when it comes to their customer paying off debts and the ability to collect debt. Aeon Berhad account receivables are turning over 27 times a year, while Volcano Berhad's account receivables are only turning over around 4 times a year. This shows that Volcano Berhad's customers are either not paying their debts or Volcano Berhad is inefficient when it comes to collecting debts when compared to Aeon Berhad.
The comparison of profitability ratio for Aeon and Volcano companies for profit margin on sale is 0.0256 for Aeon companies, and for Volcano Berhad is 0.0465. The company with a better profit margin on sale is Volcano Berhad. The comparison for return on asset for Aeon and Volcano Berhad companies is 0.0158 for Aeon companies and 0.0390 for Volcano Berhad. A ROA of 5% higher is regarded good, while a ROA of 20% are more considered excellent. The company with a better return on asset is Volcano Berhad. Thank you.
I will compare each company better in leverage ratio. The higher debt to asset ratio is Aeon, compared to Volcano Berhad company, which is 0.085. The company with lower risk value is Volcano Berhad, because the debt to asset ratio is another good way to analyze a company debt financing, and in general the lower is better. If the debt to asset ratio is high, it is indicate the most of the assets are financed with a debt and the company has a higher risk. As for the debt to equity ratio, Aeon has a ratio of 1.29601, while Volcano Berhad ratio is 0.2285. The company with the better debt to equity ratio is Volcano Berhad. A far lower portion of their equity is funded by debt when compared to Aeon. Generally, a good of debt to equity ratio is lower than 1.0, which can be seen in Volcano Berhad debt to equity ratio.
In conclusion, from an investor standpoint, our group will most likely invest in Volcano Berhad instead of Aeon Berhad. One of the reasons we chose Volcano Berhad is because Volcano Berhad is more profitable when compared to Aeon Berhad, as we can see from the profitability ratios. Volcano Berhad also has a better liquidity ratio in comparison to Aeon Berhad, making it a more secure choice for future investors. Volcano Berhad also has better leverage ratios, which makes Volcano Berhad a less risky choice when compared to Aeon Berhad. Although Volcano Berhad may earn less money when compared to Aeon Berhad, Volcano Berhad will be a better long-term investment for safe returns and profits.